Let's bring in Jeff deGraaf, Renaissance Macro's chairman and head of technical research. Welcome back. What's your message here on what you're seeing for, let's just say, the rally as it stands today?
Well, the rally as it stands today, Scott, thanks for having me first and foremost. Little overbought internally in a trend market, not a momentum market. So this move that we've seen, after the election didn't change any of our momentum work that would suggest that, we're kind of in an escape velocity. I think we're in a, another leg higher, but I don't think it's, again, I don't think it's going to get away from us. That implies that we're going to have consolidations. You want to buy those consolidations as they get oversold or as they get into good support levels. And I think we're still more in a, cyclical bias or tilt, if you will, versus defensive. I still think that that's the right call. I will say it's tricky because semiconductors are not really holding up, and that's a pretty big cyclical sector. So that's or industry group. So that's one area that's inconsistent with what we're seeing. But I'm still bullish, and I think we're going to be in a decent spot through the end of the year, probably into the inauguration, and then we'll reassess how some of these things have held up. It's
been a really interesting, view of how semis have traded versus software, for example. The latter up, the former down. You say that you want to rotate out of semis broadly. Can you be more specific on why you think that and how broad? Yeah, look, I mean, it's relative performance for us, Scott. That's where we draw the line. And so we've seen most of the trend conditions in an equal weight relative performance on the semiconductor index for the Russell 1000, really with the exception of, say, Texas Instruments, Broadcom, and NVIDIA. There's a lot of bad charts there. And that's everything from Qualcomm to Microchip to to Micron, for that matter. So NVIDIA is kind of the exception to the rule, and that always makes us nervous when one stock is swimming against the tide of the entire group. Forget the market, but when it's swimming against the tide of its own group, that's usually something that we try to avoid in mass. So we're a little bit more cautious on NVIDIA probably than you might otherwise expect given the chart. I mean, is one tide, though, if NVIDIA delivers a blowout quarter, is that enough in and of itself to raise all the other boats? It might be, but your previous guest hit something. Professor Siegel hit something really important, right? It's priced for upside, and so there are high expectations, and that's usually a point, particularly when you have deterioration in the group, that you want to be careful. I'm not overly bearish on NVIDIA. I just think it probably trades closer to 120 before we're all said and done. I would say if we get a good oversold condition in NVIDIA, that might mark the interim bottom or interim low for the group. So that actually be kind of exciting for us to see that, because they'll usually take out even the leaders by the time the group makes some type of low. So seeing an oversold condition in NVIDIA might actually be a cleansing process, not all that bearish. So I just keep that in mind. But I'm not going to swim against the tide of the group with one name, even if it is a dominant player in AI, given the expectations where they are today. And you mentioned software. I mean, a lot of the software names are improving. They look better. We think that it makes a lot of sense to reallocate dollars away from some of these deteriorating semiconductor names and look at some of these software names that are starting to break out, because they do have good momentum there.